before you go on, Coach, one of the things I'd like to mention to some of the kids too in the Caribbean region, and for those of you who are going to ID camps, I think one of the questions you need to ask the coaches or the host of the ID camps, find out from them if you're going to get a feedback, an analysis on your performance. I think that is very, very critical. It's few and in between, guys. And I can speak specifically for Trinidad and Tobago. You have a lot of guys down there having ID camps, and kids are paying a lot of money and don't know, you know, the details, Coach. How was my performance? What was my strong points? What was my weak points? How, you know, what is required for me to get into that school, Coach, that you were coaching and you were here in the Caribbean? What are some of the qualifications you're looking at? You know, I might not be at that age as yet. I may have another year or 2 more years, but I'm still participating. Could you explain to me what I need to work on as of today that can help me when you return next year? Yep. And parents, I beg you to do that. And I have to, Coach, I have to switch now back to, you know, my Trinidad and Tobago town, you know. Parents, please be careful. When you go and spend that kind of money, please inquire about the information, because you have people collecting your money and you have no details on your children, where they need to improve, what needs to transpire, what is the requirement, and you continue to do that year in, year out. I know you really love your kids and you really want to help them, but I think it's very important to parents and kids that you gather that information and you don't go happy-go-lucky and spend thousands of dollars every single year. That is not good. You got to get some kind of report. You got to get some, force these guys who are having these things to come up with more information.
Yeah, return on investment.
Yes, you must get some return on your investment. I had someone call me, Coach, and that person is she works on the female side with FIFA, and she's in the Caribbean, and she told me, she said, Anthony, I sent my kid to this, and we paid extra money, and he was not selected, but I got no information. Absolutely no information I got for my thousands of dollars. And I'm simply saying, parents, please, guys, get that information. Ask before you even register, because you know it's not 100 kids. There's 200-300 kids coming to that, and your chances of getting through, yes, some kids get through, but you got to get some information. You got to find out what I got to go work on, and you got to find out what you're aiming at. If you don't know what you're aiming at and you're pulling this arrow and this spear backward and you don't know what you're aiming at, what you going to hit? There's really nothing for you to hit, because you don't know what you're aiming at. So get that information. Coach, sorry for interrupting you. You can go ahead, Coach.
Great. So the follow-up question was, does the 2 years at junior college count against your eligibility? Yes, because you're playing collegiate athletics. So you have generally, and the timing is unique, because in the normal fall season of 2020 became the spring of 21, where college athletics got pushed to the spring generally. But if students were enrolled in school in that 20 to 21 school year, they were being granted an extra year of eligibility. They call it the COVID year. So it's kind of backlogged some things, but you've got 4 years to play 5 in school. So you could redshirt and still play 4 years. But if you play those 2 years at the junior college, then they do count against the overall eligibility. But it's also beneficial, because you play 2 years, you study 2 years, you go to the second final years of your baccalaureate degree, and you play those 2 years and you finish the last 2 years of academics. Now, if you redshirted a year, then you could maybe be into a master's program, but that's how the program works. Athletic and academic eligibility. Good questions. I know there's got to be some others out there, and there is no bad question. I always say this, and I tend to have like in-person things, and people won't say anything, and they'll be sitting on their hands. And you guys, if you're sitting in your hands, you can't type questions, but people will then come up to me and those things later quietly. I just had this question. It's like, well, you should have asked that because somebody else in the group definitely would have liked to know that. It was a great question. So don't be embarrassed. Don't be hesitant. That we can help answer that. I mean, I will kind of say, as we're waiting on somebody else, I played for 2 different schools, both 4-year. I went in very naive and not knowledgeable coaches, right? You know, it's like shooting an arrow into the night sky, like dark, and you're trying to find this thing, but it's not like if you're hunting and you're looking for the animal that you're hunting. Well, if you're doing it in the pitch dark, good luck. You hear the bushes rustle and you're just shooting in the dark, and you're probably not going to hit anything. Where if you can actually go and see what you're searching for and know how to find that. I certainly didn't. That's where I talk about finding the bucket list and finding a coach who in 20 years, you want to tell them, I'm having my first child, or I'm getting my PhD, or I got a job promotion, or I bought a house. Wherever you are in 20 years, you still want to be connected to that person. Like, we're actually not bitter anymore, because life happens for us, not to us, like I mentioned. But I certainly don't have any good things to say about the 2 college coaches I played for, except that they made me who I am today, which is, I hope, a good thing. But as far as like how they weren't there preparing me, I had to go through some things to be prepared. But I want that not to happen to other people, because you want to make things better and the path easier for everyone along the way. And so it's kind of like doing the research, and then how do you start the research? Well, it's like when anything, I'll just give you an idea of like the school that I put in for. I actually spent 10 days researching the school before I applied. And I was doing so much but I've got the experience to where I know where to look and find the strategic plan of the school, because that's going to be important for me as a coach. Like, where's the school headed? You know, what's their mission statement? Like, those are important. I want to work at a place that we align in our vision and our mission. And if a school wanted to do X and it doesn't align with me, well, then it's not where I want to work, even if they're going to pay me a bunch of money. So if you're in a 2-year school, but you want to go to a 4-year school, can you transfer? And if yes, when can you transfer? So that is, this is Jadiel, not to throw you under the bus. I know you. So I haven't said anybody else's name, so I apologize. It's also, this is good that I know who you are, because it is a loaded question. So I'm going to talk in kind of general terms. You could transfer after a semester. You could transfer after a year. You could transfer after 2. And depending on the scenarios, you could probably even transfer after 3 if you had redshirted in academics. And so it's like, to unpack that though. Let's say you came in to a 2-year school without being what they would consider NCAA eligible. You're a non-qualifier. You would have to stay and get an associate's, which would take you 2 years to be guaranteed to be NCAA Division I eligible. You must have an associate's. Division II, you could go after a year, provided you've got the core classes. They don't require the associate's degree. To an NAI school, to a D3 school, you could go after a semester or a year. So it kind of depends on the different scenarios and things. So it is all wide ranging, but that's kind of there's different scenarios, and sometimes the advantages of going early compared to staying for 2 years, there's sometimes an advantage and sometimes there's a drawback if you leave early. So it's kind of like there's no one straight path, because there are 4-year schools out there that will reward transfers higher academic money than they will freshmen. And some people are like, well, that's crazy. Wouldn't they want them there for 4 years? Yeah, but if you're thinking about the school investment, they're investing in something that's already a proven academic commodity. They've already got 2 years or a year of, because a lot of times those scholarships might be based on at least 30 credit hours, which is going to be you being at 15 credit hours, which is more just over being full-time, but it's on the path to graduate in 4 years, because it takes roughly 120 credit hours to graduate with a bachelor's degree, which is a really important thing for everybody to know. Jumping off on a little tangent, but you'll hear 12 hours will have you in housing, 12 hours will make you eligible, 12 hours will make you qualified for financial aid and scholarships, but 12 hours a semester will take you 5 years, because that's 120 divided by 10 semesters. So if you're on 15 hours or better, then you're on par to graduate in 4 years. And so like between 15 and 18 credit hours is what I always encourage people to take in those first 2 years, so they are on par, if not ahead. So let's see here.
Coach, before you switch across, Coach, I just like to add though, I'm getting some social media comments here outside of what we have, and some of the people here in Texas, Coach, sending me texts here on social media saying, no, you cannot leave. I'm not going to say any names. Yes, I'm not saying any names there, Coach, but I'm getting information here, and some of them need to catch up with you. They need to have some conversations with you. They've been on, Coach, in Texas, and they don't want you to leave, Coach. So I'm going to leave that there. I just wanted to add that, Coach. I just wanted that. You can go ahead, Coach.
All right. I'm wondering if and you can keep talking maybe a little bit, but if the person can respond about your full certificate, what maybe, Coach, you could tell me, since you're more knowledgeable on the Trinidad side.
Yes, I think Elijah, I think it's Asha or Elijah. What you need to explain to Coach pertaining to the certificates. I know you may be talking about GCE or CXC. You need to be able to explain what certificate you have, because you could also have a school leaving certificate that might be equivalent to a GED.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be a bit more specific, Elijah. So I would hope you would type that out. If you have 3 passes, you have 4 passes, you have a 2 in maths or 3 in English, or that is the kind of information you need to be able to share. It's more specific. I think that just type it out, Coach.
Yep, and we'll come back to that one. So let me look at this one real quick. So Tracy asked if there are any full medical degrees here at Blinn College. Good grief, it's a great question, and I would actually have to research and get back to you on that. I can say there might be something on the nursing side, because we're not a 4-year school.
Right.
And
Right.
the
yes, the
RN,
RN.
yeah.
Yes, I did some research on that.
Yep. And so like we actually just opened up a $35.5 million science, technology, engineering, and innovation building, which is mind blowing. And they on the nursing side, they actually have mannequins that replicate childbirth. And so it's like that's on the medical side, and they've got 4G printers and building robots, and they're going to have like so it's an unbelievable building. But on the medical side, it's like the technology that's here is generally only put at like the main campuses of, like, say, Texas Tech, that you've got to go to those schools. And that's the good thing of like Blinn, makes it a unique and special 2-year school, that they have like the beginning parts of a lot of different medical things, and then they have an RN program, like Coach said there. So that's an easy kind of question to answer, but you can, when you go into the academics of those schools, and you can usually type in, like, say, Blinn College, and you'll find the what we call the .edu, like the school website. And then you can go onto the academics, and you can find the different majors, and then find out, is it an associate's degree? Is it a bachelor's degree? Is it a certificate? Because, like, not on this campus, and we've had some kids who wanted to play soccer and be in welding. We don't actually have that here. It's on a different campus, and they can't, as an athlete, they can't be doing a certificate program. They actually have to be in an actual academic major. So that's one of the pieces there. Let's see here. So 8 CXCs, okay. So if you've finished your CXCs, that would, so you'd have to have, like, your secondary school diploma, the finish, the exit, however they do it. Some, I guess, a little not disconnected, but it's been a little while from Trinidad, honestly, coach. So different countries have different, they actually have a diploma, or like England, they never graduate, they just finish. So they don't get they get a diploma, but they don't have a graduation date. But that diploma, and then the CXCs, it's not necessary, but I think it's very beneficial if you can get the SAT or ACT taken. Otherwise, the school would have you do, like, a placement test, which can be done, but I think it's a little bit easier to prepare because you can actually get study guides for an SAT, ACT. So doing that, and depending on when they're available, that's a path, depending on where you are in the process and things. And it's kind of for everybody. Like, if you can get the ACT, SAT, and take it, twice would be good. I settled, I'll be really honest, when I was going into college, I settled. I got the score that made me eligible, where if I had taken it again and gotten maybe 20 points higher, which wasn't really that much, I would have actually gotten thousands more dollars in scholarship. And I was like, but I'm eligible, I'm good. I didn't want to pay the $100 to take it again, or whatever it was. I can't remember what the cost of those tests are, but I didn't want to pay for it, because I was paying for it myself. But if I had, it would have benefited me massively.